Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Andrew Eborn's Lives on Lockdown. And today we're going to take you all the way to Zambia. Here we go, and we are joined by Andy Chipling, who has no sound. So we're going to come straight back after the break while we get the hamsters working overtime today to bring you all the way to Zambia. And we'll be joining paper folder extraordinaire Andy Chipling straight after these messages.
Okay.
Hello, it's Andrew Eborn. Welcome back again to Lives on Lockdown. And those hamsters have worked overtime to take us all the way to Zambia with Andy Chipling. Hello, Andy.
Hello there. Look, we're flying to Zambia.
It is so good to see you. And I can't believe we've gone from Australia, where I was to just a few hours ago, all the way to Zambia.
Yeah.
So I have done the A to Z of this global pandemic. And tell me what's going on there in Zambia.
Well, I think in Zambia, it seems to be, at the moment, everything seems to be okay. I feel safer here. Now, however, it's a bit like America. They've done a lot more testing, so they get a lot more cases. In Zambia, we keep hearing that people have got corona, in COVID-19, and then we find out they haven't got it, they've got malaria, or they've got a cold. So it's very difficult to know what the reality is of the situation in Africa because of the lack of personal protection equipment and testing facilities that we've got in the Western world. We are indeed lucky in England and other places in the world where we've got all these testing facilities. Now, we haven't got that here. I think they've got some, but I don't think they've got enough, as far as I can see, to actually give a true picture. But again, I haven't seen people dropping like flies, and so therefore I think at the moment it seems to be fairly okay. I think they're controlling things very well, the Zambian government.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, Andy. I've been talking to people around the world and the different approaches that governments take, What is the Zambian government saying to people? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? Run me through the rules and regulations at the moment.
Okay, one of the funniest things for me is that I very often slip over. They have tiled floors outside the shops, in a lot of the shops, and they've got these water bowsers, these small water containers with a tap on it and some soap on the top. They have a security man at the door, and every shop you go into, you have to wash your hands, put a bit of soap on, wash your hands. Some of them got foot controls on them. At the hospitals, they've got foot controls, and the other ones, you just turn the tap yourself, of course. It's not always the best way, they've got sprays inside. They have usually things like methylated spirit sprays, which they use a lot. That's a standard sort of thing which they use out here. Everyone has to wear face masks to go into a shop, or you're not allowed in there. In public transport buses, everyone has to wear a face mask. Basically, they're saying for social distancing, but of course it's very difficult when you have some of the open markets where there are literally thousands of people all bustling together doing things, and so it's not, should we say, somewhere where you want to be without a face mask, because there are so many people. However, everybody seems to be healthy, and I do think that there is some credence in this business of temperature makes a difference, because
well, no, I don't know. As I say, so many different things being bandied around, and that's the problem. And the people who I've been most impressed by are the scientists. The people who were just a few weeks ago were experts on constitution. Remember that debate? Remember Brexit all those years ago?
Oh, I've forgotten Brexit.
Those experts on social media are now virologists. And everybody's got a solution to this. But what I'm really interested in finding out, Andy, you say, so the markets are open, the shops are open, yeah?
Yeah.
Cinemas?
Well, there isn't a cinema in this area here. So in the village, I mean in Kabwe, there isn't a cinema to my knowledge anyway. I don't know if the cinemas are open anywhere else.
Restaurants?
Personally, restaurants, there are some restaurants open.
Restaurants are open. So really, you don't have shut down in the same sort of way that we've got here. You wash your hands. It's great advice everywhere. You wear face masks. Is that compulsory?
Yes, it's compulsory to wear them in all shops.
Okay. And what happens if you don't wear a face mask? Are there punishments?
I haven't seen any punishments, no. I haven't seen anything like that happen as of yet. I haven't seen any fines implemented or anything like this. I think it's very difficult to find somebody who hasn't got very much money. So when you are in a country which is not as rich as the West, it's very difficult to say we're going to find you because they haven't got anything. Now, me, they might be able to find me, but then I would have no money either.
Right. But on that though, Andy, then people are generally pretty good, even though as you say, they wouldn't pay the fine anyway. But are they generally pretty good at complying with what's a fairly lax rules? Actually, it's social distancing, wash your hands, and wear masks in shops. That's not too difficult, is it?
No, it's not too difficult, and people are being careful. We're trying to discourage people from coming around. Because I've got a new baby boy. My son has been born out here just 6.5 weeks ago, so that's been really good. But people are being very respectful and they're being sensible. They're washing their hands when they come in. We're not seeing many people because of the virus that we're concerned about, youngsters and things like that going around. We're keeping our other siblings in the house, so they don't go out so much. They go out in the garden. They'll go to some neighbours that we see on a regular basis, but those neighbours are equally being sensible about these sorts of things.
And when they go and see the neighbours, because they're quite young, the children, aren't they? When they go and see them,
yeah,
are they social distancing?
This is the problem. You see, children have very short memories, and when you have children of 3, 4, and 5 who are running around in the street, their social distancing becomes zero. So they would be the transmitters, and that's the only worry.
Right.
So we're just trying to limit it. We're trying to reduce the amount of contact.
Yeah, and the children, they talk about having schools. I mean, I presume schools are still open then in Zambia?
No, they're not. They shut the schools ages ago, and they've been closed down completely.
Right. So the schools are not open. What about for essential workers?
Essential workers, yes, that's all going ahead normally. The shops are normal. All the shop workers, there are big shops here like ShopRite, who they will spray down the counters usually between each customer. The shop workers behind the till have got these guards on their faces, like you'd get if you're doing trimming the garden, and they're wearing face masks as well. However, you do see some people in the shop who thinks once they've got in the door, they can put their face mask and it holds their chin up. And so you have to, people tell them, oi, up, and the security will tell them, get your face mask up. Because obviously it's for their own protection, not just others.
Sure.
But generally, people are being fairly good at complying.
Oh, good. But what I was thinking of is the children. What I was thinking of were the children of the essential workers. You say the schools are closed. Who looks after those children?
They're going to reopen again soon. They're reopening again soon, the schools.
Right, but what's happening to the children who are not going to school at the moment? The essential workers who've got to go out, you've got mother, father, they're both together. They've got to go out to work. Who looks after the children?
Well, in Zambia, you have nannies that will look after them, have the advantage of being able to pay somebody to look after them. Because of the way that social society works in Zambia, you can afford to have a nanny to stay with you at a better rate than you would have to pay in some of the other countries like England. So it's a bit like having an au pair, but not giving them a massive amount of money. So they will eat with you and things like that, and they look after the kids. They'd enjoy the different things that they've got. They get treats every now and then, and they will probably usually go home, or some of them live with the people. So it's a very different social network and social structure in Zambia than it is anywhere else. I mean, I rent this place, that house that we live in now, but there's 8 of us, including my new boy, living in this house here. So that's quite a lot. And so, sleeping wise, you've got 1 in the lounge at night, 3 of us in 1 bedroom and 4 in another bedroom.
It's quite extraordinary. And are they doing homeschooling in Zambia?
I would say there's a few doing homeschooling who have got the internet, who can do that sort of thing. Yes, the ones who are in the higher social classes, the government workers, things like this, people who work for the government, ministers, things like that, have got that. But in general terms, they would do studying to get ready to go back to school. So their parents, like I've encouraged my wife's younger sisters, to keep doing their studies, and they have agreed to do a certain amount of study per day, and then some of them go to other friends' houses and do studying. So they do study groups there. So they're basically looking after themselves. They realize if they don't study, they're not going to get anywhere. I think the big difference between England and Zambia is that the children, and I have to say this, are grateful to be able to have the opportunity to go to school and learn. The children will bow or curtsy if they're given something by a teacher. It's just unheard of in England for a young lady to curtsy to a teacher when they get given a sheet of paper to take away and do something, or a pencil. but it's normal here. That's the normal thing.
It is extraordinary as well. I mean, I've been talking to lots of teachers who will talk about their different experiences and the difference that it makes when children are so willing to learn, the enthusiasm, job satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I was going to teach at Calgary Institute of Technology. I was going to do a course there on incremental step development, fast process track learning, that sort of thing, using paper engineering. It's something I've done at Imperial College London with the projects there, with the outreach projects with Dr. Sunday Popaola. He's been a great man to inspire lots of people in Africa and other places in Nigeria. He's done teaching out there using lots of these principles. And so that's been very, very good. But the difference in attitude is something which I would love to see it back in England, where the kids are looking forward to going to school, are proud to be at school, and are grateful for the lessons they're getting.
Right. And I think one of the great things, well, two great things, many great things have come out of this pandemic, one of which is the families are getting united. Nothing unites people more than a common enemy. What also is happening, you're respecting what a lot of people took for granted beforehand. So you'll find that all the parents or the people at home who are now having to teach children get real respect for the teachers who do it day in, day out. So you get the new heroes on that sort of basis. Things we take for granted, like even physical contact with relatives who we're socially distanced from, people getting a hug of a morning. If you go and see your mother or your father or your uncle or whatever it's going to be, you can't do that anymore. And whilst this is sort of happening, we take all of those things for granted.
And I agree. And also there's something else come out. There's a cottage industry in Zambia of face masks, and they're really good. Actually, you're having a drink. Maureen, can I get a drink of water, please? My wife, I've just asked her if she can get me a drink of water.
Oh, bring her on. I haven't met your wife. I see so many pictures on social media.
I know.
It is only water, I have to say. You're very welcome. You've got water.
No, that's all right. Yes, and though it's nice to have a drink every now and then, we tend not to very much.
Is that right? No, but it is extraordinary, Andy, on that sort of basis. And I do think that that's going to be the great unifier. And I think the thing that people forget and took for granted beforehand, I think hopefully we'll be in the new environment that we're going to live in after we've managed to sort out the issue. Would be extraordinary. Oh, bring Maureen in. Let's have a look at where's Maureen. Can she come and say hello?
Do you want to quickly say hello? Just come quickly around the corner.
Of course she does.
She won't sit on the paper aircraft. She won't be able to hear you though, Andrew. That's the problem.
That's all right. No, that's a blessing for most people. Come and sit in. I'll wave appropriately. Maureen, hello. Hello, Maureen. How are you doing?
Listen to this. Listen to that.
Oh, you can listen
so this
to
is
that.
This is my lovely wife, Maureen.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm amazing. I'll tell you what, it is so good to see you. I've heard so much about you. And Andy, your husband, is superb at posting on social media about his glorious life in Zambia.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll tell you what would be really interesting is I would love to know, because I haven't heard this story, I would love to know how you two met.
We met on a Christian Facebook page. And the rest of it is just history after that, because we started chatting and we found we had a good sense of humor together. That's the one thing that's quite important with different cultures, because we are from a different culture. Though I've got sisters out here, I've got half sisters out here from my dad. It's just different cultures, and we have different laughs and different jokes. In my church in England, sometimes I'm known as the Black Masungu, and Masungu obviously means white man, or the worst one means, in some cultures, it means wanders aimlessly. So obviously the white settlers were wandering aimlessly, but I prefer to just think of it as just being white man. So being called the Black Masungu is because I do things, because I know the black culture very well, and I do cooking in an African way, and the hair and things like that. I know how to do the stitching in of the weaves and this sorts of things. So,
well, I can see your weaves are looking particularly good today, Andy.
Maureen's weave is good.
Oh, no, Maureen's might be. Yours are looking great, Andy, as well.
I've lost my. I didn't bring out the right hair dye, Andrew, so I can't.
Oh, you did? Did you bring a hair dye? Oh, good for you.
Usually, but not now. This is natural.
Yes. Okay.
I'm au naturel with you.
I know what's really interesting, that previously, BC, before Corona, half the world used to have, in certain places, used to have blonde hair. What's happened? All those blondes have disappeared. I'm not sure why. It should be interesting.
I don't know why either. No, it's
sort of. So tell me, I mean, this was on a Christian chat room. What was it? Tell me a bit more about
It's
that.
just a Facebook page about sometimes you talk about religion in the sense of I go to a church. I go to Harvest Time Church, which is part of the Fountain of Wisdom Ministries, and
Right.
that's in Virginia Water. And this church is very much a teaching church, so it's not about religiosity. It's not about going in and performing ceremonies. It's about learning things. So the sort of things we get taught there are things like don't criticize your wife for not dressing in a dress you like. Go out and buy her a nice dress. Don't criticize your wife's cooking. Show her how to cook something. And Maureen has been extremely good at picking up my cooking, which I'm quite proficient at, I've been told. And she then does it herself, and she will copy me, and I will copy her, and she shows me how to do hers.
Very good. And Maureen, just to bring you in, I bet you've taught Andy a few things as well. What were the things that you taught Andy, Maureen?
I've taught him how to wear each thing and how to cook in shima.
And how do you cook it?
You first boil water, and then you add milli meal. You wait for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then you add some more milli meal for it to be hard. And then you steam it, then it will be ready.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
you have to try it yourself.
What's that, sorry?
So you have to try it yourself because
no,
it's not as easy.
What we've done, we're not as lucky as you are in Zambia because lots of people, the restaurants are closed here. They're just starting to open up for takeaways, a lot of them. So it means that a lot of the major chefs, including from 5-star restaurants, have been what's called furloughed. They've been sort of put out to pasture a bit, paid 80% up to a certain amount of their wage, but they're not working. So I've had a few people come on the show and they've showed us things like lemon drizzle cake, and we've been baking bread, and we've been doing all the stuff that you can do at home and trying these things. I would love it next time if you come back on the show, when you come back on the show, can you show us something from Zambia? What would you show us when I bring you back?
I think showing milli meal would be a very good thing. I think also maybe showing cooking it on a brazier outside instead of when we don't have power here, because there's a thing called load shedding when the dam that's in Siavonga can't produce enough power, and it's a Kariba dam. That's right, Kariba, isn't it? Yeah, Kariba dam. Yeah, that can't produce enough power. So why it can't produce enough power, I don't know. Why they haven't got solar lighting here, again, I don't know. There are some, and I think the government are working on these things, but we do get load shedding, which is very unfortunate. So we'll lose power at 3 o'clock, and it won't come back on until 8 o'clock maybe. Okay. And so at that point, if you need food or hot water for bathing, you have to use charcoal on a brazier, and then you cook on that. So I've become very expert at lighting a charcoal fire, and to put my kettle on to make a coffee in the morning or tea or whatever. And so that's what we use to cook on. And we've got several different braziers which we use, from a modern one, which is a bit more efficient, to the old fashioned one, which is literally made out of cans. They're made out of large metal paint tins almost, and then holes cut in the side and another piece laid in the middle, and then you put the charcoal on it. So there's all different ways of doing things. And there's problems with that as well, Andrew, because I've been trying to educate people not to use Pepsi Cola bottles and light them to set fire to the charcoal, because although the plastic burns, the toxic fumes cause cancer. And cancer is on the rise in Zambia because they do a lot of pit burning. So they burn the rubbish in a pit, but unfortunately if they have the plastic in there, those fumes come out and go into your lungs. And that's what's wrong about doing that. So I'm trying to encourage people to recycle, and I believe the government are looking into recycling stuff a lot more, like India does, and things like this. And so the Zambian community as a whole generally are keen to learn, they're keen to be educated, they're keen to do things, but there are some things still which they're basically on a different page of the British story, if you say. Some people criticize other countries like Zambia, and I say to them, you mustn't criticize it because we were there 10, 20 years ago, and they're catching up. And there's lots of very bright people here who are keen to learn, but the education system, unfortunately, hasn't got the same benefits that we've got. So they haven't put the money, so to speak, into the infrastructure for the schooling. And a lot of schooling you have to pay for. And that's a bad thing, of course, if you haven't got much money. Paying for the children's schooling, their clothing, their shoes, their bags, their notebooks, the exam costs, school trips, these sorts of things. It's very different. I mean, The funny thing as well is you see children walking down the road with machetes over their shoulder. Literally, they have a big machete over their shoulder. And I might get Maureen to go and get the machete, but if you saw children walking down our streets in England with machetes over their shoulder, you'll be running a mile from them.
Of course.
But they're not here because they're going to their school to help cut the grass. During the holidays, they've got to go to the school and then cut the grass, so they help their school because they haven't got the money to pay for the gardeners. So the children's duties are they go there with the machetes. They all walk down the road with these giant machetes over their shoulder, big slashers they've got that you see in some horror movie. But of course, it's perfectly innocent and they're perfectly okay. These children are perfectly decent children who are going about their jobs, doing their duty for their school. So how different is that?
I know, and it is quite strong. And what I love, genuinely love about this, firstly, is in terms of the media, it means that we don't get a diluted view of what's going on. I've been talking to real people in real situations about not only their reaction to what's happening with the pandemic, but also about life. And it's rather as what I call sort of lifting the kimono on different lives in different little villages. So talk to me about, you met on this Christian website, fantastic. Yeah. Talk to me about the conversation. You developed a relationship over how long?
Well, we've been together for 4 years now. So we fell in love, obviously, as you do. And then we got engaged. We had a tribal wedding. And then we had to wait until we can actually afford to do another wedding. But when I came over here for this time for our wedding, I came here for 2 things. 1, to get married, and 2, to have the baby. And of course, because of coronavirus, our big wedding turned into 4 people.
Right.
So we had 2 witnesses.
Maybe I can bring Maureen in here. Maureen, tell me what a normal tribal wedding would be. What would normally happen at a wedding?
It's all about tradition, our tradition, whereby I, the wife, I'm supposed to cook our traditional food and show him. Yes.
Okay. So talk me through the ceremony. What would be the tradition of food? What would you do at the ceremony?
We cook in Shima, African polon, which is chikanda. We call it chikanda. We cook also village chicken, bush meat, rape. We've got rape. It's a vegetable, and Chinese. It's also a vegetable as well.
She's laughing because I said to her, "Please, I do hope we don't have one of the street sellers walking by." Because they have a very unfortunate habit of shouting out, "Chinese rape, Chinese rape." And of course, it's just really, what they actually mean is they're selling the Chinese vegetable rape. So they will shout out Chinese rape all the time in big, loud voices. And of course, I said, I just hope that doesn't happen during the interview. And early before the interview started, there was some guy in the street calling out, "Chinese rape, Chinese rape." And
well, I sincerely hope he comes back again because I love that. Yeah. It is extraordinary, isn't it? So that would be a normal ceremony, a lot of food involved. You say because of the coronavirus, they limited the number of people because of social distancing, and you could only have 4 in total or 4 guests?
4 in total. That was including 2 witnesses. And the crazy thing was, we went there to the place for the registry office and to make it legal because I wanted our child to be born within wedlock. And 3 days later, he was born. So I did the right thing. However, it wasn't my fault. The delay was just financial because it costs quite a lot of money to come out here and to be not at home. I mean, I haven't been at home now for over 2 months. So you can imagine it's very difficult for me to survive. Financially, it's very, very difficult for me. I've had to save up and I've had help from friends, and friends in my church have helped. This is the one thing, people criticize churches, but I've had a lot of great help from some really lovely people who are what I call real Christians, not the hypocritical ones who don't remember their past when they used to be naughty people. We've all done things we regret in our lives, and don't ask me, Andrew. I've known you for, I think this is when we first met in the Magic Circle many, many years ago. I mean, it's before, I think it was probably 1998 or something like that. And we met and I said, "Hello, Andrew." "Oh, hi, Andy." And you went, "My name's Andrew, not Andy." I thought, "Oh dear, I've got a very strict one here." And so, but it actually was quite good because, because anti-clockwise, of course, he's Andy as well. So with you, I know Andrew is Andrew Eborn and I'm Andy Chipling. But of course, clockwise came along and said, "Oh, no, we can't have 2 Andys here." So we had a laugh about that, which is quite
No,
fun.
we laugh about many things, and that's one of the great unifying things, and we've got magic over there. But going back to life on a daily basis, as you say, it's you went over, you caught an extraordinary time, and I've seen the one thing you've shared are glorious pictures of your baby. What's your baby called?
Andy.
Your baby's called Andy.
He's actually christened Andy. So he's not christened Andrew. So he's going to have problems when say, oh, so your name is really Andrew. And he can say, no, it's actually Andy. I'm christened Andy. So he's going to have to be correcting people all their life. And it's like me, if I book an air ticket, if I'm not careful, I get an air ticket with Andy on it. And then I go to passport control and they don't let me in. And I have to pay £40 to change it to Andrew because my proper name is Andrew. Because nobody calls me Andrew. Everyone calls me Andy. It's like everyone calls you Andrew and they don't call you Andy.
Yeah, well, they only call me Andy once, so it's got to be good.
Yes. Well, I think you're right there. I remember that very clearly. You corrected me. And
always so is it a tradition then to call your first son after the father?
No, it's not. However, it's something which we discussed about it, and Maureen said she'd like to be called Andy. So I thought, okay, fine. I felt a little bit like it was me being sort of, oh yes, I want to have a son called after me. I mean, my father was called John, and Maureen's father was called John, and both of them have passed away, unfortunately. God rest their souls, but you know, that's the way it is. But so it's just nice, and of course his second name is John as well. So in fact, he's called Andy John Chipling, same as me.
And so that was after both fathers, so that makes it easy. So both sides of the family respond well.
Exactly, yes. And also the other thing is irritating because you know, what do you call me? You call me Vash Andy, and Vash Andy means like Father Andy. So if I get called Vash Andy, then I know that, or just call out Daddy. They call people Daddy out here. But neighbours should really, as respect, call me Vash Andy, which means father to Andy.
Oh, no, fascinating. And I'm always very interested in how different societies work and react when somebody from a different culture comes in and you've got your ways of doing things and so on and so forth. Maureen, talk to me about some of that sort of stuff. I'm sure there are lots of things that Andy does which are not usual in where you are. How what was the reaction when Andy first showed up? How did your family react? What did they say to you?
The things that since him being from us, we are from different cultures. So when he first came out, that was in 2016, July. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were all happy to see him, and even my neighbors, even people from different like town, like my friends would come to see him because him being white, they all wanted to see him, to meet him, to talk to him, to tell them they were all asking him if he can explain to him how, they were all asking him if he can tell them how it is there back where
I live.
Yes, where you live. Sorry, I'm nervous. And
she doesn't do interviews normally. This is not her thing. I'm the extrovert. She's the introverts.
Maureen, you're wonderful. You have no reason to be nervous at all. I think Andy has a reason to be nervous. You have no reason to be.
Okay. So they would ask him. He would teach us about paper aircraft, a lot of things. He taught us how to cook.
English food. I've taught this a lot. And we'll
come on to that.
So Maureen can make this. I thought this was going to be about paper aircraft.
Oh, I'm not interested in paper airplanes.
Okay.
That's good stuff. Throw it away. Maureen, come back. Tell me about that. So Andy came over and he started teaching you how to cook. Is that what he did?
Yes. Very good. How to cook, and he would teach how to build paper aircraft, and also he would teach us how to be polite. What can I say? Maybe he would, if someone, like we are used putting, like if someone comes, like a visitor would come, would maybe greet them and bow, maybe kneeling down to show respect.
Kneeling down? Good heavens.
Yes.
It depends on their age. If they're elders, it's a different thing. If it's a grandma would come in or something like that, then the younger ones would kneel down a bit more and just say hello to greet them. Only once, not every single time.
That's not you teaching them that, Andy. That's you learning.
No, that's right.
Zambia, right?
Yeah, things like
you were talking about that before, Maureen, about the schools and how polite they are and respectful to the teachers. So learning respect is a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is.
I think handing things. If I was to hand something to Maureen, I have a hand this. You put your hand here.
I wouldn't want that airplane. But he's desperate with his airplanes. Go on, then. Yes, okay.
So, but you seriously, you hold your hand like this, and Maureen would, if she gives me something, she would curtsy.
Right.
Each time she gives you something, as a matter of respect, and all the family, all the children, and if I ask someone to get me a drink, they bring me a drink. They don't just hand it to me; they curtsy as they give it to you.
Yes. Well, even growing up, we have changed as a society. Even growing up, people used to say, mind your P's and Q's, didn't they? Do you remember?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I think that the one difference is that I try to make, you know, it is when you're a father, you tend to try to say, people say please and thank you. So the children would say, I want something. And I say, no, you must say, I would like something, not I want. And I want, and then you say, I give them something and I say, yes. And they look at me strangely and I say to them, you say thank you. And they say thank you. And I say to them, you're very welcome. So it's this sort of thing that doesn't, maybe because of the language, because the languages, I mean, if I see someone in the street, I say to them, Mulishani, and Maureen would say, if I say Mulishani to you, Wina Mulishani, and then you say Mkwai, and Mkwai means it's respectful as well. So if I say Mkwai, that's respectful as well.
Is that the right pronunciation? So what's Mkwai?
Mkwai.
Mkwai.
Maureen will translate everything for you, so go ahead.
Okay, Maureen, what does Mkwai mean?
It's just a word of respect.
Just a word of respect.
If I greet you, how are you, Andrew? And then you respond to me, I'm fine. And then, okay, it's more like a word of respect, and also it's like you're just blessing someone.
So it's a bit like when we say, how do you do? And I say, oh, very well, thank you. You might say, oh, that's jolly good. Very pleased to hear that. You see, that sort of thing. It's a little bit like we would be.
What I really love is getting back to real. So, because so often we're very British about things. Everybody goes through a routine, Maureen. And what they say, how are you? I'm fine. And it doesn't matter if you've had the worst day ever. That's the routine that we do. So
how's the weather?
I quite like the idea of that sort of honesty where you're turning around and Mkwai, respect is great. And you can respect the fact that sometimes people have a good day, sometimes they have a bad day, and it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that in England, sometimes there's a lot these days where people say, how are you? And they say, don't ask. People will say that, won't they? They say, oh, just don't ask. But if it's a stranger, they wouldn't say that. So if you're with a stranger, someone says good morning, you say, oh, good morning to you. You say, all right, yes, I'm fine, thank you. You think because one, we know that they're not really interested in hearing your long story. It's like, how are you? Oh, I'm terrible. I've had a bad day. The car's broken down. I've stubbed my toe. I dropped a glass of water on the floor just as I was going out and trod on the glass and cut my foot. They don't want to know that. Nobody really wants to know. So nobody actually really cares. And that's the reality of life.
No, I get it. And the other extraordinary thing is sometimes when you go into a different environment, there's sometimes a little bit of, a bit of fear or sometimes even animosity. Did you find any of that?
No, I know Zambia very well. I've been coming here for the past 10 years. I've been here for quite a long time. So I know Zambia very well and I understand the different cultures. And on the whole, I would say I get treated extremely well by the Zambian people. I mean, I've been along to to renew my visa each time. I come because of the coronavirus. I've had to extend my visa, and I've had politeness and everything from the officials there. They're very helpful. They've told me what to do. The Zambian embassy have been trying to help me. What I am surprised about is Kenya Airways. Unfortunately, I do have to say this with them. They didn't even tell me that my flight was cancelled. They sent me an email on the 29th of March saying to me, do I want to upgrade my seat? But they didn't send me an email to tell me the flight was cancelled. Although on the live website where you look to see how your flight's doing, when you book in, it said this flight is leaving from Lusaka in 4 hours. When you ring the airport, they said there's no Kenya airplanes at the airport at all, so that's not possible. And they haven't replied to my email yet. So I think they furloughed all of their staff, all the ones who do the emails, they furloughed them all. They're all at home watching TV. And they haven't bothered to reply. So as yet, I still have had no message from Kenya Airways telling me about my flight.
So
what they're doing, if I'm getting a voucher or nothing.
So you were due to fly out on the 29th of March?
No, I was due to fly out on the 22nd of May.
Okay, so a couple of days ago.
April, 22nd of April. 22nd of April. Sorry,
Okay,
22nd of April.
6 weeks ago. Okay, so 22nd of April, you were due to fly out.
Yeah.
When did the planes all get grounded?
Well, I can't remember honestly when they got grounded, but the point is, if you're booked on a flight, there's only a certain number of people who are booked to fly, for example, on that day. And on that day is the day they have to tell people who are booked to fly after that, but they haven't told me a single thing about any bookings. They've not told me anything. They've not told me the flight is cancelled, when we're going to have another flight. I know they may not know, but I think a polite email from them just saying to me, we're very sorry, Mr. Chipling, that your flight's been cancelled due to coronavirus, and we're offering a ticket for you to fly back whenever you like when we start up again. But they've not said anything. So I've just been effectively forgotten by the airline. And this is an airline which I've been using for the past 10 years. And I have to say, they were the cabin staff. I even know one of the Dreamliner captains, and they're lovely, lovely people. The Dreamliner captain, I gave him, dare I say it, Andrew, one of these with the RAF and Fujitsu naming up symbols on it, because I've got one of these which is made up. They gave out 50,000 of these at the RAF 100 celebrations at different air shows that we went to, and I gave this to the pilot, and I've got my details. I gave him my business card with my telephone number on it, and he WhatsApped me and said to me, "Thank you very much. My kids loved it, and it's really great. And I've built one, and I've seen your YouTube channel. And please, if I can ask your viewers to have a look at my YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and type in Andy Chipling, and you'll find your YouTube channel. You can find out how to build Project Space Plane, which this plane is, which is fairly easy to build. But as I've said before about these things, it's adults having their pride because they all think they can build a paper aircraft. I'll just get one behind you, Maureen. They've all built this one. Oops, sorry. I've taken my wife's earphone out. They all build this one, the standard Dart, which of course goes up quick and comes down quick. And it's got a point on it, which is dangerous. But Project Space Plane hasn't got a point on it, and therefore it's not dangerous because it's got this lovely end on it, which is flat. So it doesn't hurt anybody, and also glides a lot better. The air flows through the center. And this is the one that did 10,000 miles.
Amazing. I'm going to come on and you're going to demonstrate that in a bit. But just to finish on your flight thing, because you're lucky, many reasons, because you had a place to go and stay. You'd had the birth.
Yes, because I've got a home here already with a wife and established family. So I was lucky that I've got that. But if you were in a hotel, then you would have to pay for that hotel all the time.
Yes.
And you'd need to, so if you hadn't got any money, I mean, I've still got to pay the rent on the house, the water, the electricity, all the other things, food. I've still got to pay all of that. All right, I'm not paying it at home, but the council tax at home doesn't stop.
Right.
And
so basically, you've got the situation. There will be others who are stuck. Effectively, they are the forgotten ones in this.
I think so. Yes.
And they've
forgotten about Africa for some reason.
Hotels who've been stuck in a similar position to you.
Sorry, say again.
Do you know some people who are stuck in the hotels at the moment?
I don't. No, I don't know anybody else. The only people I know are a few of the people. I mean, I know lots of people in Kabwe, obviously, and Lusaka, and people on. But I don't know of anybody personally who is stuck.
Right.
I think when I got here, they encouraged people to. I got here. It was 3 days after I got here. The Prime Minister said we're encouraging everybody to come back to England. And well, I've just come out here after spending 9 months away almost, and 8 months away actually from Zambia. And I wanted to see my wife, and I wanted to be there to support her having the baby and to see my child being born, this sort of thing. And of course, so I wasn't going to suddenly get on another plane and come back again. It was just didn't make sense for me to do that. It would have been emotionally wrong to do that, to abandon my wife in her greatest need of having a baby. So I didn't, I stayed. And then they grounded the flights.
So what they will say, and this is what happens, it's always good that you're here because you can tell them directly. What they will say is that you ignored the advice to come home.
Possibly.
Okay.
But the airline didn't contact me. But the airline didn't contact me and said to me, you need to fly home now or you can change your flights. They've never responded to me. They've never even answered the phone at all to me. I've rung the phone. I haven't got through to them. Other airlines, Ethiopian Airlines, I've got through to them. Unfortunately, they wanted to charge $2,500 to fly me back home for one flight,
So,
which
so
I couldn't afford.
at the moment, Andy, you're stranded, and
Effectively,
you
I'm
have
stranded.
no
Yeah.
idea when you might be able to come back.
That's right, and I'm not unhappy. That's the thing. I can actually say, although other people, Spiros, for example, who's had coronavirus and was been very ill, recovering from it well, luckily, he's knows the bad side of it. Now, for me, I'm actually grateful to coronavirus for being allowed to stay out here to watch my son grow. I mean, this morning I was watching him interact with my wife, and he did his first laugh and smile.
Oh,
And this is,
I'll tell you what we should do.
it's amazing.
Is little baby Andy asleep at the moment, or is he? Who's looking after him?
I think he must be asleep. Is he?
Yeah, he was with Kida.
Yeah, I think he's probably asleep. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to see him another time, because we would love to see baby Andy on the screen. But the idea then, the plan, and Maureen, how do you feel about this? If you're the father of your child, your husband has come over, he was going to go away again. How do you feel about that?
I'm really happy that he's here and he's able to help me with a lot of things, because I couldn't manage giving birth to him, like having a normal delivery. I had a C-section because he was big. He was weighing 3.9 kg, and he's been always helping and also encouraging me, helping me lift heavy things and also carrying the baby. Yes.
So when but the original plan was Andy was going to come back on the 22nd of April. What would have happened to you, Maureen, during after that time?
My mother's younger sister and my father's elder sister, they're the ones who are supposed to be looking after me.
So they have family. That's the beauty of Zambia. They have families. So her mother's, who passed away about 11 months ago now, her sister would come along and help. And that's what they do here. They very much help things a lot more. It's a bit like Indian culture, when grandma comes to live with the family, and then grandma will be looking after things. And I think it happens to some English households, but generally they tend to be quite separate. They don't live together. They're separate. Whereas out here, they don't necessarily live together, but they would always help out, and they'll come round and look after them and do extra things and just help, maybe do some cooking or cleaning or whatever. They just help each other, just be there to support them in a really good way. So that's the one great thing they've got.
So it's a great
network.
Family unit. I think it's more, what I'm looking at is more long term, because obviously you have a child together.
Long term, Maureen hopefully will come over with Andy. That's the
right,
thing.
fantastic. And that's the plan, yeah?
Yeah, that's the plan.
And what, in terms of the process, have you got visas and things like that sorted now?
That's the problem. That's the problem. It takes a lot of effort to get the British government to agree to have anybody in the country. I think Brexit's one thing, but keeping the rest of the world out is another thing. Unless you've got a lot of money, you know, we're not all television producers and high-ranking solicitors like Andrew Eborn, for example. I don't know if you know him.
I've never heard of him. I know a guy called Andy Eborn, but that's somebody different, I guess.
But the difference is you have to have enough money to show that you can support the person coming over. And this sort of thing.
Talk me through the rules and the hoops you have to go through. There you are. You've met.
They keep changing.
Yeah, you've met on this.
They keep changing,
website.
Andrew.
You've met on the Christian website. You fell in love. You you conceived a baby. You got married. You've had the baby. You're now married with a baby, and you're looking to spend the rest of your lives together. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Want to do that? What are the hoops you have to jump through to bring your wife and your baby back? If that's the plan, you have
to apply for a spouse's visa, which I'm applying for out here for myself, to extend my visa period, because after 3 months, they don't know. This is not normal for countries to have. It's normal to extend a visa, but then after 3 months, you've got to do something else. Now, because I'm married to Maureen, I can apply for a spousal visa. Unfortunately, that costs money. Nothing's cheap. Lots of things are all about money.
Well, how much does it cost? How much is a spousal visa?
It's 1,717 kwacha.
And how much is a kwacha?
I would look on my phone if I could see it to see what it is, but it's about £90, I think it is.
It doesn't sound right.
But that's okay.
90.
yes, but you bear in mind, Andrew, if you've got a certain amount of money to live on, and you've got a certain amount to live on per month that's coming into you, like I have, and you've got a family here and you're paying for things, there isn't much money left over because nappies are expensive out here.
But just on that though, this is your wife and child to bring them back to the UK. The only thing standing in the way is 90 quid.
No. That's my visa here.
Right.
The English one is a lot dearer.
How much is it?
I can't remember how much dearer it is. It's I don't know, is it £500 or something? I don't know. I can't remember now. But it's not just the visa that's the thing. They want other things as well. I can't remember. I'm so out of date with it because we've had other things to worry about. So I can't recall all the details and facts. But it's not a quick and simple process.
Okay, well, we should look. I'll be fascinated because a lot of people. What I also love about this journey is that so often when people come onto a show, and I even heard on all the interviews, your fantastic one show, whatever, they use the terrible phrase, and it rings in my ears every time I hear it. You're getting into a proper interview and doing this sort of stuff. I'm afraid we've run out of time, or I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, and people never get the full story. So what I love about this is that we have a chance to drill down to get a real snapshot of what life is like when you've got your situation, and there'll be others in this sort of situation where, thank goodness, you're happy to share, and they can find out what it really means, because that's what makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yes, I think it's okay to share, but I'm not, obviously, I'm not keen to give away too many personal details of everything. It's a bit like, who's the guy? Piers Morgan. You're doing a bit of a Piers Morgan here, very, very personal interview, whereas I thought it was going to be about paper aircraft.
Oh, we can certainly talk about. Oh no, Piers has got a very particular style when he's grilling politicians. No, I think, and this is it's a loving thing.
I'm not saying you're like Piers Morgan. What I'm saying is we're talking about things which I wasn't expecting to talk about.
Oh, I see.
I've got no details about the visa.
We talk about this show, and what I love about this show is it's real. It's finding out about real people. It's getting behind the sound bites. We live in a world where it's all about spin. We live in the world where those sultans of spin will twist things and everything else. It's all about the sound bites. It's all about not having enough time to drill down. What I find is that having a little snapshot of people's lives, if they want to, if they can open up and say, this is what it's about, and finding out about life in Zambia, finding out about long-term relationships and long-distance relationships, it helps other people. But of course, you don't need to talk about it at all. I think it's just very helpful. And these are very positive things, saying, look, this is the process we have to go through. And also what happens, Andy and Maureen, is that if you talk about it, there'll be people who'll be watching this who may be able to assist you with your journey. So what I found is a lot of my guests have come on here. We have reunited families, which has been brilliant. Yeah. We've reunited friends who haven't been in touch with each other for years and years and years. We've had companies who hear on this program, here's an issue, they get in touch and they sort it out. So the great thing about this platform is not a negative thing at all. It is absolutely a positive way of saying, here are the issues. Let's talk about it. I had Harvey Goldsmith was on yesterday, my guest yesterday.
I saw some of that interview, yes.
Fantastic. So great guy. The reason he got things done is because he said he wasn't looking at the problems, he wanted a solution. And I suggest what we should do, challenge Harvey, not challenge Annika, because the big things like putting on massive concerts in Hyde Park, or you can't close off Regent Street to have a Formula One race in the middle of London. All these sort of things are possible. They're possible if you say, let's talk about it, and we will together find a solution.
Let me talk about my book then, Andrew, because there's a Canadian booksellers who've been selling my book from Canada it's called Spicebox, for the last 18 years since my British publishers went out of business. And I haven't had any royalties from them for that period of time.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get a way to get the courts in America to deal with this. This has been quite difficult. It's been quite hard to sort this out. And I want to try and see, because I haven't got, unfortunately, my solicitors that had the contract, and since the contract was written 20 years ago, I haven't got a copy of it. They had a copy of it, but then after 10 years or something, they get rid of it. Why they don't send it to me or say to me, do you want to have this contract and back because we're going to get rid of our stocks and files. I don't know, but they didn't, and they haven't got it. Apparently, you know about this more than I do. Apparently, under law, they've got to show the reasons. They've got to show copyright law, the fact that they've got my book with Andy Chipling on it, and they've got to show that they've got a contract that they can actually sell it without giving me any royalties. Because I was receiving royalties before, and that was the original contract.
What I always love about these sort of shows is that you get both sides to come on. So one rule I always have.
I wish we could have the other side to come on.
But
I don't think they'd talk to you.
Sure, because that's one of the rules that I have, is that when anybody says anything about anybody, I try and make sure they're in the room, because I always try and see things from the other person's point of view and say, look, what would they say? Yeah, and because if you work out what they say, then you can find a solution. And that's why I say building the bridge between the two is absolutely. So let's have a look at that. If they are watching, they will be. You'll be surprised who watches this show. If they're watching, you can say, look, you're publishing my book. I previously received royalties. I'm not receiving them anymore, but you're still selling. Now that, to me, headline, something somewhere is not quite making sense. Dig out the old royalty statements if you can, and let's have a look at it and try and make something happen. Because I'm sure...
I've tried to look for it, you see, Andrew, that's the problem. And I can't find it anywhere.
I understand, but they will have something as a general sort of principle. You will turn around, here's a copyright work, you're selling my book, you previously paid royalties, you're still selling, I'm no longer getting royalties. Why is that? Seems a really easy... So what we'll do, let's follow up on that, and next time I speak, we can talk about the publishers and things like that. Just getting back, if you're happy to talk about it, because I think this is really interesting. Let's look at the rules and regulations, because the plan, and I'd be very interested in Maureen's view as well. The plan is that the both of you will come back when you're allowed to the UK and settle here. Is that what you both want?
That's the plan, so that in my old age, Maureen can look after me, and which won't be too long because I'm really old now. When I met you, I was a young boy when I met you, Andrew.
Maureen, can I ask what are your dreams and hopes for the future? What would you like to happen?
I just want to spend the rest of my life with my husband.
And that's a lovely thing to say. And you obviously have all your friends and family in Zambia at the moment. Your plan is your hope is to come to the UK?
Yes, and also I would also like to, because I have got my young sister who is 16 years old, and Andy is paying for her school, and also my brother, my cousin, I would say, and he's paying for everyone. We are about 8 in a 2-bedroom house. He's renting a house for us, and he also helped pay towards my mother's funeral, and the time she was in the hospital, she was diagnosed with cancer of the cervix, and she was there in the hospital for about 3 months to 3 to 4. Yes, and just to get that treatment, it's very expensive. So he paid out for that, and he also helped pay for my elder sister's kid. She's 4.
5,
like
I think.
5. She's 5 years. She had something. She had the growth, which they thought it was a tumor, and yet it wasn't a tumor. So he paid out for that. We had to take her to a private hospital. He paid out for that, and that helped out a lot. And my plan is that if I travel, if I happen to travel to go with him, because we've been trying, we've tried twice applying for my visa, and they have always been refusal letters all the time.
I think Andrew knows about one of them, don't you? Because I said to you, I got a solicitor who was meant to do it, and unfortunately he didn't do. Not all solicitors are good. They're all human. They fail sometimes. And we had a solicitor who was going to apply for a visa for Maureen just to come as a visitor's visa, and he filled it out incorrectly. And because there used to be an appeal system, but there isn't anymore. So when you do a visa now, you have to get everything correct. And if you miss something off the form, that's it. Tough luck.
Yeah, and I think it's, I'd say, the technicality of the individual cases people should look into. But certainly now you're married, Then
Yes, that should make a difference.
spousal visas. So I'm just very interested in, firstly, the formalities, and I think that's very helpful, and it's helpful to talk about that. But also, Maureen, and as you say, Andy's done some fantastic things for the family. How do you
Yes.
feel? Have you ever been to the UK?
No. No.
She's
Have
seen
you ever been
videos, and
outside
every
of,
day she sees videos.
right? Have you ever been outside of Zambia?
Yes, I have.
Where have you been?
South Africa and Namibia and
Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe.
yeah.
Mhm.
But never
Botswana
out
as
of
well.
never out of the continent of Africa.
And no, just around Africa.
Right. Oh no, and stunning. I love South Africa. I have great friends in Joburg, and I've been to the Kenyan safari and so on and so forth, and went down to, I was a speaker. I was a speaker down in Cape Town, which is a stunning place, at a place called Monkey Valley, which is glorious. Where I really love that sort of place. So really, really interesting. But it's quite tricky, isn't it? Moving to the other side of the world, I mean, a long, long way away. How do you feel about the potential of doing that?
I can't wait, and I'm so excited about it.
Well, that's absolutely charming, and it's really, really good. Now I know, because Andy's mentioned it several times, and there's it's like a little advert every now and again. A plane will come up, which is quite good. I will let what I loved, and this is Andy wrote to me, because I have known Andy for years, and he's always said to me, Andrew, we must do something together. And I love people who are passionate about things. I like stories. I like people who are talking about people and ways of life, how we can deal with common interests and things like that. But also these lockdown times, what I've been trying to do is to encourage people to try different things. And a lot of people have written to me say, oh, you're the Joe Wicks of mental health. So Joe Wicks is the guy here who does all the physical exercises. And so I've been championing mental health, not just in the Mental Health Week, but Mental Health Awareness Week, but all the time. So find activities, find ways you can help, find people who can talk about their issues, because that will help people. And finding new things to do in these extraordinary times is a good thing to do, isn't it?
Yes, it's very good. Yeah, I mean, I teach not just paper aircraft, but I do origami. I do origami boats, origami boxes. I do religious origami. There's a wonderful piece of religious origami called Heaven and Hell, which tells a story, and at the end of it, there's a surprise, which is quite good. And I've done this in various different places. I've done it in some churches in England, but it is quite clever. It's a clever bit of origami, and I think the one thing I've had here is I feel I'm a bit of an ambassador for England when I come to Zambia. I'm always friendly to the people who are in security, in the car parks, doing the trolleys, cleaning the floor. Everybody, the guards on the door, they all know me. Everybody knows around here. And I found it quite surprising that not everybody is the same as that. I think there's a little bit of the old-fashioned South African attitude from some of the other whites that I meet.
Yeah,
and although I've met some very nice ones, I've also met others who don't speak to me.
Right.
And that's strange.
Well, is it strange? I mean, people are scared. This is what I was trying to touch on earlier. People don't like the unknown. And this is where lots of things, you get so on and so forth. People are a bit scared. This is why you have xenophobia and things like that. Because people, if you don't understand somebody's situation, you don't want to understand or not open to learning about things, fear is perhaps the most disabling thing of all. It's also the most powerful tool. I've been talking about this a lot, is that when the pandemic started, people panicked because fear is all over the headlines. You're going to die, you're going to run out of everything. So people start panic buying. You know, the shelves were empty of toilet paper and disinfectant.
I know, that was crazy.
Yeah, because people are scared. And it's what Barnard said. Barnard, who was the father of PR, he said that fear is the biggest motivator, the most powerful thing that you can sell. So I think when people start peddling fear, that's when you look at that. So when prejudice comes about and xenophobia is because people are scared of the unknown. And this is why I try to encourage people to talk about people are real. Everybody has the same issues around the world, don't they?
They do. I mean, everybody's got the same worries about things. I'm just trying to find my pen here so I don't remember something that's, where is it now? Oh, thank you. She's a good secretary.
He's much better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there was an acronym. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's about fear. It's something appearing false, false something appearing real. I can't remember what the E was for. I can't remember what it is now, but there's something, fear is something appearing real. And it's the one thing, again, which the teaching Harvest Time Church is
False
about.
evidence appearing real.
Well, that's it. False evidence appearing real. Now, that
It
is
may
something
not
which...
be it, but I just thought of it, a word beginning with A.
No, it is.
I could do
no,
it.
It is. It's false.
Okay.
Yes, it's false evidence,
False evidence
appearing real.
Okay.
Now, that's something which we learn about, and we realise that if you are fearful of something before it's even happened, you're making an assumption that that's going to happen. It's going to go wrong. Something dreadful is going to happen when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Of course, that can make you anxious, and then it can make the thing go wrong anyway.
Sure. And that's why I always sort of say to everybody, question everything. Because so many people, and it's the same when people have rows, and there's something about human nature. They love a bit of gossip. They love to say nasty things about people behind their back. And it's human nature. And firstly, I would really want to champion stopping that. So many people fall out. So many people fall out where perception and reality are not aligned. And so what happens?
I think assumptions are the biggest. Yeah, assumption's the worst thing, isn't it? If you assume, if I assume that Andrew Eborn likes curry, and you come round and I cook you a curry or a hot chili, and you can't stand hot foods, then I've made a big mistake. So it's probably better to say, what's your favorite food? Rather than make an assumption I would know just because you're Mexican. Now, we know you're not Mexican.
Curry, I tell you what, so I'd be round for that curry, I love it. But they always say that assume makes an ass out of you and me, because that's how they spell it. So assume makes an ass out of you and me. So really clever stuff. I love playing with words, but you're right, and it brings into all sorts of things. And this is what I love about these conversations, Andy. And when you wrote to me and said, let's do things together, I'd love to come on the show and talk about things, I think your story and Maureen's story, it's so fascinating. The in above, and of course we will talk about the planes because I love that stuff as well. But that is really, really interesting and helpful for people. Do you see that?
I do indeed, yeah. And so do you have comfort breaks? Do you have adverts you put on your show at all, Andrew?
Oh, do you need a comfort? If you can take a comfort break, we will be back.
I would love one.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We will take a break. So we'll let Maureen and Andy, and they will join us next time to talk about paper planes, more about life in Zambia. We'll do the A to the Z from assumption and make an ass out of you and me, all the way to Zambia. But for now, Andrew Eborn, I will see you next time. Andy and Maureen, join us next time on the program, coming up after this break.
God bless. Take care.
There you go, a fascinating insight into a different life, really. Zambia I've never been to. If you have been to Zambia, if you know about the culture and the thoughts over there, do let me know. Write to LOL, that's LOL, @octopustv.com. If you'd like to be on the show, also drop me a line. Put your comments in the section below, but also subscribe to Octopus TV for more of this exciting content. We will get Andy and Maureen back with all sorts of things about their lives, but also some paper planes coming up very soon. See you in a bit.